Hello, everyone. This is Greenway Law Firm and my first live. So, welcome to my first live Q&A. So, if you all have any questions, feel free to shoot me the questions in the comments. Please bear with me because this is the first live that I've done. And I've been hesitant to do them because maybe one, because I'm a control freak, but it's just you can't control what happens sometimes when you're live and it's not recorded. But I'm excited to do it. So if you have any questions, feel free. I'll be on till 12:30. You can go ahead and put your questions, comments in the comment section, and I will be sure to answer the question. So, just to introduce myself, my name is Elana Greenway Faniel. I am the attorney and owner of Greenway Law Firm. Greenway Law Firm practices primarily in business, intellectual property, entertainment, and personal injury law. So, um, if there's no questions yet, I'm just going to talk. So I'm just going to talk. So I wanted to first, while we're waiting on any kind of questions or anything to come in, I am going to talk a little bit about a personal injury topic. So I'm going to start with a personal injury topic and then get into something that's a little more related on the business side, something about contracts. So the first topic that I'm going to talk about, and again, if you're watching and if you have any questions, comments, feel free to shoot me a message in the comment section, and I'll be sure to get to your comment or question. All right, so first topic. Types of auto insurance coverage. I'm going to talk about this because this is a question that I get all the time about the different types of auto insurance coverage. I handle a lot of personal injury cases, have since 2014. I will be very transparent with you. Before I started handling personal injury cases, I didn't even know what these different types of coverages even meant. You kind of just buy purchase an auto insurance policy um, because you need to. So hello, Mr. Moore. So you just purchase a policy, but you really may not have an understanding of what you're even purchasing. But it's really important to have an understanding of the types of auto insurance coverage that you're purchasing. If the goal is to just get the bare minimum, even understanding what that means for you, that is important. So, getting into the types of auto insurance coverage. First one, PIP and property damage. So I mentioned if your goal when you're purchasing an auto insurance policy is just to get the bare minimum, you just need to get on the road, right? What you're getting, what types of coverage that you're purchasing is called PIP and PD for short, it's property damage. You're getting PIP and property damage coverage. Okay, so what does that mean? That means that on the property damage side, if you're involved in an auto accident, you have coverage to repair or replace the other person's vehicle. Okay, that's what property damage coverage gives you. You have coverage to replace or repair their vehicle. It has nothing to do with your vehicle, it's their vehicle. Okay. On the PIP side, this type of coverage, PIP, it's called no fault coverage. PIP coverage covers your medical expenses. So this is dealing with your policy that you've purchased. It covers your medical expenses if you're involved in an auto accident. Doesn't matter if you're at fault or not. It will still cover a good amount of your medical expenses. All right. So if you're involved in an auto accident and you have the bare minimum, this is all that you're getting. This is all that you're going to get, which is not a lot of coverage. Okay. So it's important to understand, if you are purchasing the bare minimum just to get on the road, what you're getting. All right. So let's get into the next one. I have, before I made a post about this type of coverage, it is called uninsured, underinsured motorist coverage. It is so important. It is, more costly, right? It costs more to put this type of coverage on your policy, but trust me, it is worth it. You will thank me later. Once you get this type of coverage, hopefully you won't be involved in an auto accident, but if you are and you're injured in an auto accident, you will thank me for telling you to purchase this type of coverage, this uninsured motorist coverage. All right. So what is this coverage for? This coverage, underinsured or uninsured motorist coverage, compensates you. So this is on your policy, compensates you if you are injured in an auto accident. Okay. So what this means is the other person, maybe they don't have insurance, right? They don't have the proper type of coverage. They don't have, they don't have any insurance whatsoever. They don't have what's called bodily injury coverage, which I'm going to go over next. They don't have any of that. So basically, you're left with, your hands tied. There's nothing that you can get. You're injured. PIP has paid some of your bills, but you still got some bills. Some of them are going into collections. What do? There's nothing that really can be done. And that's the unfortunate part about not knowing about this type of coverage. So you want to purchase uninsured, underinsured motorist coverage. I've seen this time and time again where clients do not have this type of coverage. They are injured in an auto accident. They don't have it. And there's just nothing that can be done, unfortunately. So this is something that is protecting you. Okay. So this is coverage that's going to be on your policy. It's protecting you. And so you need to make sure that you purchase that type of coverage. All right, next one. Bodily injury. I mentioned it when talking about underinsured, uninsured motorist coverage. This type of coverage does not cover you if you're involved in an auto accident. It covers another person, right? So if we all make mistakes, things happen. If you happen to cause an auto accident, right, and someone else gets injured, bodily injury coverage is what is going to compensate that other person who was injured after you caused that accident. All right. So it's important to have this. Again, this is covering yourself, because if you don't have bodily injury coverage, and let's say you're just, you weren't really paying attention, you just purchased whatever, but you've got cars and homes and businesses and assets and all kinds of things, but you didn't have bodily injury coverage. When that injured person, they could come after you personally, right? So they could potentially touch those personal assets. You don't want that. You want your insurance company to step in and pay them what needs to be paid. So bodily injury coverage is very important, very important. And I'm not telling you this just because I'm a personal injury lawyer. I have all of these types of coverage on my auto insurance policy because it's really important. That's what insurance is for, really, is to help, protect you against what could happen, right? Hi, Casey. All right. So if you all have any questions, feel free to jump in, ask me a question in the comment section so I can answer any questions that you have. All right. Okay. So let's get into one that's not talked about as much, but it is coverage that you want to make sure that you get. So a lot of times, some people will think that they have full coverage, right? And I don't know what full coverage means, depending upon the insurance company. I don't know what it means. But typically when someone, says they have full coverage, it's going to include maybe comprehensive and collision coverage. So it has the bare minimum, it has, the PIP and the property damage, but it might have comprehensive and collision, but then they don't have, bodily injury or uninsured motorist. So I don't know what full coverage is, but even if you've got, let's say you're purchasing a auto insurance policy and your agent or whatnot is telling you, or whoever you're on the phone with is telling you you have full coverage, you want to make sure you see that breakdown of what types of coverage you're actually purchasing on that policy. But let's talk about auto insurance. Let's talk about comprehensive versus collision, what that actually means. I, would recommend you purchasing these as well, comprehensive and collision. Now, collision is going to be helpful when you're involved in an auto accident. So it's a collision coverage. It's going to cover you if you're involved in a collision with another vehicle or another object or something of that nature. You're colliding into mailboxes, whatever it is. Okay. Hopefully you're not colliding into mailboxes or, hitting curbs and things. Anyway, I won't talk about how I used to drive in my younger days, but collision coverage is there to help you if you are colliding into things and vehicles. What does collision coverage do? It is coverage that will repair or replace your vehicle if you're involved in a collision with another vehicle, if you're involved in a collision with another object, like I said, a mailbox or a fence or something like that. So that type of coverage will repair or replace your vehicle. Now, how does this come into play when we're talking about being involved in an auto accident? If you're involved in an auto accident, remember I talked about that property damage coverage. If you're involved in let's say that you're injured in an auto accident. Okay, someone hit you, and you are now injured, right? What happens is the other party's insurance company, they have the property damage coverage, right? So they have the coverage to replace or repair your vehicle, but they might be dragging their feet, right? They might wait 2 weeks to even get to you and send an appraiser to look at your vehicle to see what kind of repairs need to be done. They could take forever. So instead of waiting on the at-fault party's insurance company to do their job, you can use the collision coverage on your policy to repair or replace your vehicle. And then what your insurance company will do is they will then, seek essentially reimbursement. They will subrogate, but they'll seek reimbursement from the at-fault party's insurance company. So collision coverage is really important because it can be really helpful and definitely streamline that process of repairs to your vehicle if you're involved in an auto accident. So it's important to have collision coverage. Now, comprehensive coverage is going to cover any damage to your vehicle that's not related to a collision. So if an animal runs into your vehicle, a tree falls on it, you've got rocks falling on it, things of that nature. If it's stolen, comprehensive coverage will basically cover any repair or replace, depending upon the limits of that coverage, will repair or replace your vehicle. So those are the types of auto insurance coverage that those are the basic or types of auto insurance coverage that you need to know about. So if you don't know whether you have these types of coverages on your auto insurance policy, go and take a look at what's called a declarations page that breaks down the types of coverage that you purchased, and make sure you have each of these. Make sure you have that no fault PIP. Make sure you have you're going to have the PIP and the property damage because that's required in the state of Florida, but make sure you have that coverage. Make sure you have that bodily injury coverage. Make sure you have, comprehensive and collision. Trust me, you will thank me later. It is more expensive to have some of these additional types of coverages that are not required. But trust me, you will thank me later once you get those. Any questions about anything that I talked about? Auto insurance coverages, being involved in an auto accident, what type of coverage you should have. Any questions at all? All right. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna. So for the last half of this Q&A, which is no Q&A yet, but um, so the last topic I'm going to discuss is a contract related topic. So, as you all know, I work with small businesses and I worked with creative professionals, and so I do a lot of contract drafting, contract review, and contract negotiation. So um, I know a bit about contracts, to say the least. So I want to talk a little bit today about a particular contract term or provision or clause called indemnification. Okay, indemnification and what that means. So, indemnification is it's a legal concept. It's a long word, I know, and I'm going to give you the legal definition of what indemnification means, and then I'm going to give you some examples. So when I'm looking for my legal definitions, I use this huge book. It's called Black's Law Dictionary. It's a really big book. I got this when I was going to law school, and it's huge. I don't care. It's not a law school book. It's huge, but it has legal definition. It has the legal definitions of words. It's the legal dictionary, and so Black's Law Dictionary defines indemnification. Um, well, really, to indemnify someone is to reimburse for a loss suffered because of a third party or one's own act or default. So to reimburse another for someone else's or your own act. Okay. So I some people call the indemnification clause a hold harmless clause because that term is in there. Or they call it they call it a hold harmless or indemnification clause. And how I typically explain this concept is you are promising in this indemnification clause of a contract, you are promising to defend the other person if someone else comes in and tries to sue them. Okay. So, what does that look like? So, indemnification clauses can be in all kinds of contracts. So, I'm going to give 3 examples of where you can see this and how it applies. So, of course, I talked earlier about personal injury cases and the auto insurance, the types of auto insurance that you would need. Or that you should have when you're involved in an auto accident. And so on the personal injury end, you might have an indemnification clause in your release. So a release is something that you sign when the case is settled. You're promising, okay, I'm not going to sue you. We settled for a particular amount. We've agreed upon this amount. You know, I agree to settle this whole claim for this particular amount. In that release, there might be an indemnification clause. And typically, what that clause will say is that you're going to defend, and it's typically an insurance company, you are going to defend us if Medicare or Medicaid or someone of that sort, or some other medical provider sues us because their bill wasn't paid, okay, or their lien wasn't paid. you're going to defend us, or you're going to reimburse us for having to, defend against this lawsuit. So essentially, you're promising to defend them if a third party comes in and sues them. So that's on the personal injury end. Where else I've seen this a lot is in operating agreements, bylaws, of a company. So an LLC, of a corporation, a nonprofit corporation. Many times there will be an indemnification clause in that contract because it is a contract. Um, it, it is a contract. So, um, so an indemnification clause in that type of agreement, what is happening there is the company itself is promising to defend, usually officers of the corporation, board members of the corporation. Um, the company is promising to defend them. If they're acting in their capacity as a board member or as an officer, or of an LLC, a member of an LLC, if they're acting in their capacity as that officer or member, the company will defend against any third party suing them. So um, let's say that there was some sort of, there's a promise to, where have I seen this on that scale, where essentially an officer might violate a particular duty, right? A duty of loyalty or something of that sort. And maybe a third party might sue them because it caused them particular damages. The company is promising to defend that particular officer because they were acting in their capacity as an officer. However, typically in those types of indemnification clauses, the company is not going to defend that board member or that officer if they were acting intentionally, if they did something intentionally, or if they were grossly negligent, like they were extremely negligent. They're not going to defend them. So typically you'll see that exception. Like if you do something intentionally, we're not going to defend you, right? If you're getting into a fight, I don't know, that's kind of extreme, but if you're getting into you're at a board meeting or something, or you're at a meeting with shareholders or something, and you get into a fight and you punch somebody, that's intentional. That's an intentional act. The company is not going to defend you against, that type of claim or case or anything like that. So there's always exceptions, but typically companies will indemnify their board members, their officers, their owners and members, and while they're acting in their capacity as such. The last example I wanted to give you of an indemnification clause in action is related to intellectual property. Okay, so I work a lot with trademark and copyright law. I do trademark and copyright registrations, enforcement, and litigation. And so oftentimes I'm drafting, if I'm working, for instance, let's say for a music producer, okay? So if I'm drafting a contract for music production, let's say it's an artist wants to hire a music producer to produce a track for them, all right? So I will include, I will include an indemnification clause in that contract. I will also include a particular clause that says, and this is from the producer is saying, what I'm providing to you is original work and it's not infringing upon anyone else's work. So that's not to say that there's no samples in it. But if there are samples in that particular track, that those samples have been cleared, you have the licenses that you need for those samples, but the producer is promising that he or she is producing original work for for the artist and is not infringing upon anyone else's rights, right? So then the indemnification clause would come into play if, let's say, there's a violation of that promise. Okay, so years later this track is like a hit, okay, and it's sampled. It actually, no, the artist didn't realize it was sampled from a song from the 1980s or something like that, right? So the record label or whomever owns the masters and publishing rights um, for that particular track that was sampled sues the artist, right? They're going to sue the artist, they're going to sue the producer. Okay, they're going to sue everybody involved with the song, really. But that indemnification clause would cover that artist, because what the indemnification clause is going to say is, producer, you're going to defend me if I get sued because you broke your promise. If I get sued because you broke your promise that this was original work, then you're going to defend me, meaning you're going to reimburse me for attorney's fees. You're going to reimburse me for anything that ends up being paid out. You're going to defend it. You're going to hire attorneys to try to, figure this out, get this resolved, but you're still going to have to pay me because you made a promise to me in our original contract that you were using original work when you produced the song. And now we're finding out that that is not the case. So the indemnification provision is really important when we're talking about intellectual property, and we're talking about promises of not infringing upon anyone else's work if you're producing something for someone else. So and in those types of relationships, it doesn't have to be an a music entertainment kind of relationship, but whenever someone is, they might be commissioning a work, um, you know, they could be commissioning artwork, it could be, creating software, it could be, producing music, it could be a number of different kinds of things. But sometimes, that promise to defend could be mutual, meaning both of you are promising to defend each other if someone else comes in and sues one of you because you broke a promise in your contract, a promise that you made in your contract. So I hope that, from this, this brief discussion about indemnification, that you all have a better understanding of what that means when you see it in a contract. And you want to make sure that, if you're getting a contract drafted or you're reviewing a contract, that you review the indemnification provision, because it's really important. And a lot of times it's a particular clause that's often negotiated and limited, because potentially you could be paying out a lot of money if there is a claim that's being brought. So it's really important to have a basic understanding of what indemnification is. All right, so thank you all so much. This was thank you for those who just commented. I appreciate it. Thank you for those who chimed in, who viewed and liked and loved. Thank you so much. This was our first live Q&A. I hope to have more of these and hope to have more questions and things asked, because this is your opportunity to ask questions. But if you would like to schedule a consultation, a confidential consultation with me, if you have particular legal questions, feel free to do so. You can contact me. I'm about to put you can contact me at my email address, elana@greenwayfirm.com, and we can set up a consultation. Or you can, let me put my phone number there, or you can call the office and office number is 813-607-6060, and you can give the office a call and schedule a consultation with me, and I'd be happy to chat with you and answer any legal questions that you have. And also, if you need to hire my law firm to handle um, any kind of business, intellectual property related or entertainment related case, or if you have a personal injury case, feel free to give my office a call, and I would love to assist. So thank you all for viewing. Thank you all for joining. Thank you all for commenting. And until next time, I will see you all later. Enjoy the rest of your Friday, and have a great weekend.